Could I have the next questioner for Dr. Avalos?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank you both for being here. Thanks for a great debate. And Dr. Avalos, you never directly refuted any of the facts that Dr. Craig stated in his first, the opening statements. So my question to you is, do you have any direct refutation of any of that? I know you tried to prove that Dr. Craig he has in the past told stuff that wasn't true, which he gave reasons for. Is there any reason that we shouldn't believe anything that he said tonight? Do you have any direct refutation of anything that he said? Thanks.
I think Dr. Craig is just playing a semantic game. He wants to pretend that just calling something a fact makes it a fact. So he starts with the fact of postmortem appearances. That's not a fact. We can't verify postmortem appearances happened. All we have is a story of postmortem appearances. What makes that story a fact? Well, he uses a lot of this argument, as probably the earlier questioner pointed out, this argumentum ad verecundium, which means he uses an appeal to authority. Most scholars agree. Well, listen, what group of scholars are you quoting? Mostly Christian scholars. What do you think most Christian scholars are going to say? They're already committed to the resurrection. Does he do that with Muslim scholars? Does he say, most Muslim scholars agree that the Quran is a revelation of God. Therefore, I'm going to start with that. You see, he's doing a lot of this stuff that you're not going to notice until you dissect it very, very carefully. And, for example, 99% of text, we have 99% reliability of the New Testament. Nonsense. We don't have the autographs. How could you possibly come up with that statistic? You can only come up with that statistic if you compare the manuscripts to the original. You don't have the original, so how would you know it's 99% like the original if you don't have the original? It's nonsense.
Could I have the next questioner from this side, please?
It's for Dr. Avalos. If you don't believe in any supernatural essences to this world at all, then how do you account for many miracles in Jesus's and all the disciples' time and times hereafter that are pretty recent too?
You're still confusing the event with stories about the events. I don't grant you that there were miracles. I only grant you that there are stories of miracles. And if you did that, if you did history that way, why don't you believe in Marian apparitions? Dr. Craig says, well, everybody knows that people don't rise naturally from the dead. Well, there must be a supernatural explanation. Well, why don't you do that with Marian apparitions? People know that Mary couldn't possibly rise naturally from the dead. So why don't you just say, Dr. Craig, those appearances must be true. Mary must be alive, since witnesses are experiencing something. And by the way, another famous trick is, the disciples couldn't possibly have a pre-existing tradition. Every tradition, the first instance, doesn't have a pre-existing tradition. That's another bogus argument. If you did that, every tradition would not have a pre-existing tradition. Wouldn't be in the mind before the first instance of it.
Okay, we have time for one more question for Dr. Craig. This side. Anyone? Is there a question for Dr. Craig from this side?
I wish to speak a moment, please. I have a driver's license here. My name is Jesus Christ. I am a scientist. I study electromagnetic phenomena. I study paramagnetic phenomena, ferromagnetic phenomena, and dielectric phenomena. I think these three phenomena is what God uses to take the center of the earth, which I think has a density of 10,000 grams per cubic centimeter, which is the density of the neutron, the proton, the electron, and all subatomic particles, to make the molecules of the bodies of which we live. I think that it is time for us to take a good look at what we're doing tonight. I like it. I like when people discuss and talk, and it doesn't mean that we all have the same ideas. It means that through this discussion, we're going to come to a conclusion, a little bit better setting for the days ahead. Now, here's what My question to both of these men are, what is the density of the center of the Earth?
I don't know.
Well, perhaps ending with an unanswerable question is a perfect segue into asking all of you to think carefully about the unanswered questions you have from this evening. And I hope you will really think through the arguments you've heard on both sides and join me in thanking both participants for a very stimulating debate.